I just came from a meeting today in the Situation Room in which I've got people who we know have been on ISIL websites, living here in the United States, U.S. citizens, and we're allowed to put them on the no-fly list when it comes to airlines. But because of the National Rifle Association, I cannot prohibit those people from buying a gun.
Did President Obama just dismantle one of the most common arguments in the gun debate? In this town hall exchange, a gun rights supporter challenges Obama over why Democrats focus on gun laws instead of going after criminals and gang members. What follows is a tense back and forth where Obama pushes back hard, arguing that common sense gun regulations aren't the same thing as taking away people's rights. And some of the points he makes are still at the center of America's gun debate years later. Hey everyone, welcome back to Hazel Reports. I'm Hazel. If you enjoy honest political analysis, fact-based commentary, and a closer look at the stories shaping American politics, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest videos. Let's watch the exchange and then break down exactly what was said, what the arguments were on both sides, and whether Obama's response still holds up in today's political climate.
So good guys, why then do you and Hillary want to control and restrict and limit gun manufacturers, gun owners, and the responsible use of guns and ammunition to the rest of us, the good guys, instead of holding the bad guys accountable for their actions? And Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to use Chicago, your hometown, a city that has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, a city that for decades and still is under Democratic control, a city that has an outrageous and even embarrassing murder rate as my first example. Why can't we round up these thugs, these drug dealers and gang members, and hold them accountable for their actions, or allow the good people in Chicago access to firearms to protect themselves?
Good. All right. Well, let me, it's a multi-part question, so let me just say a couple things. First of all, the notion that I or Hillary or Democrats or whoever you want to choose are hell-bent on taking away folks' guns is just not true. And I don't care how many times the NRA says it. I'm about to leave office. There have been more guns sold since I've been president than just about any time in U.S. history. There are enough guns for every man, woman, and child in this country. And at no point have I ever proposed confiscating guns from responsible gun owners. So it's just not true. What I have said is precisely what you suggested, which is, why don't we treat this like every other thing that we use? We used to have really bad auto fatality rates. The auto fatality rate has actually dropped precipitously, drastically, since I was a kid. Why is that? We decided we had seatbelt laws. We decided to have manufacturers put airbags in place. We decided to crack down on drunk driving and texting. We decided to redesign roads so that they were less likely to have a car bank. We studied what is causing these fatalities using science and data and evidence, and then we slowly treated it like the public health problem it was, and it got reduced. We are not allowed to do any of that when it comes to guns, because people, if you propose anything, it is suggested that we're trying to wipe away gun rights and impose tyranny and martial law. Do you know that Congress will not allow the Center for Disease Control to study gun violence? They're not allowed to study it, because the notion is that by studying it the same way we do with traffic accidents, somehow that's going to lead to everybody's guns being confiscated. when we talked about background checks. If you buy a car, if you want to get a license, first of all, you got to get a license. You have to take a test. People have to know that you know how to drive. You don't have to do any of that with respect to buying a gun. And when we talked about doing effective background checks, it was resisted because the notion was we were going to take your guns away. I just came from a meeting today in the Situation Room in which I've got people who we know have been on ISIL websites, living here in the United States, U.S. citizens, and we're allowed to put them on the no-fly list when it comes to airlines. But because of the National Rifle Association, I cannot prohibit those people from buying a gun. This is somebody who is a known ISIL sympathizer, and if he wants to walk in to a gun store or a gun show right now and buy as many weapons as ammo as he can, nothing's prohibiting him from doing that, even though the FBI knows who that person is. So, sir, I just have to say respectfully that there is a way for us to have common sense gun laws. There is a way for us to make sure that lawful, responsible gun owners like yourself are able to use it for sporting, hunting, protecting yourself. But the only way we're going to do that is if we don't have a situation in which anything that is proposed is viewed as some tyrannical destruction of the Second Amendment. And that's how the issue too often gets framed.
You know a political exchange is going to be interesting when the question takes almost as long as the answer. The voter came prepared with statistics, criticism of Chicago, concerns about crime, and a challenge that has been at the center of America's gun debate for decades. Why focus on gun laws instead of focusing on criminals? And what makes this moment so fascinating is that President Obama doesn't dodge the question. He takes it head on. The questioner argues that responsible gun owners are being punished for the actions of criminals. That's a message that resonates with many gun owners across the country. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you don't want to be treated like you're the problem when gangs, drug traffickers, and violent offenders are committing crimes. But Obama's response is interesting because he immediately pushes back on what he sees as a false premise. His first point is straightforward. Democrats are not trying to confiscate firearms from responsible gun owners. Now, whether every gun owner believes that is another discussion entirely, but Obama points to a reality that often gets overlooked. During his presidency, gun ownership did not disappear. In fact, firearm sales remained extremely high throughout much of his time in office. His argument is that there is a difference between regulating something and banning it, and that's really the heart of this debate. The public safety comparison. One of the strongest parts of Obama's answer is when he compares gun violence to automobile safety. Think about it. Cars are everywhere in America. Millions of people use them every day. Most drivers are responsible. But society still decided that seatbelts were necessary. We still require driver's licenses. We still have traffic laws. We still study accidents to understand why people are getting hurt. Obama's point is that none of those measures eliminated the right to drive. Instead, they were designed to reduce unnecessary deaths. From a Democratic perspective, this is where the conversation often gets misunderstood. The argument is not that lawful gun ownership should disappear. The argument is that public safety measures and constitutional rights can exist at the same time. Another important moment comes when Obama discusses research. He argues that gun violence should be studied as a public health issue, similar to how researchers study traffic fatalities, smoking, or other causes of death. This has been a long-running political battle in Washington. Many Democrats believe more research leads to better policy decisions. Many conservatives worry that research can be used as a tool to justify